on the use of those tools. And Brendan's really come on board in a hugely engaged and innovative way to think about teaching and the use of various technologies and various social networks, a whole raft of tools for assisting with that paramedic course. So without further ado, I will hand it over to you.
Well, thank you.
Brendan.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And to be called a trendsetter, the last time I was a trendsetter, I put some skinny jeans on and it just didn't work. So to be a trendsetter here is quite special. So my background is I'm an intensive care paramedic. And you heard from my colleague Steve yesterday from the department. I'm an intensive care paramedic and a military medic as well. So I look after the program that AUT offers our Defence Force students in the transition into the Bachelor of Health Science in paramedicine. I also have the pleasure of chairing our faculty exam board. So we're very interested in how technology works for students in that regard, because often it's that problem with Turnitin that the student then identifies, oh, I don't believe I've actually submitted my assessment. So it's working a lot with the team here within our AUT team to make sure that the student experience at the university is as best as it can be. But today I'm going to talk about another topic, which is the preparation for emergencies by using apps. And I've identified through a number of collaborations that there are three distinct groups we're going to look at today. These ones here, your community first aid apps, that's just something you might even like to think of downloading. There will be apps for preparation of disaster and apps for paramedics, what paramedics may use in the pre-hospital space. It's my pleasure to introduce Archie. Archie will be with us throughout the presentation. Archie is 9 months old, and they say silence is bliss unless you've got a dash hound, otherwise it's ominous, which I think probably is about right. So Archie's hilarious. This is a university, so of course we better have some evidence. Now the problem is I'm probably going to be staying here a little bit because I've got to work my phone and bits and pieces. So I love wandering, but I'll probably be back over here most of the time. So smartphone applications have become essential for emergency responders and the lay public. And many high quality apps are now available. And there's two distinct groups really. There's those free apps, and then there's apps that you pay for, of course. But the majority of free apps really are high quality and meet the requirements. And there's literally thousands of apps that you could download to support emergency response. So the evidence says this is obviously an emerging field. Some of the terms that we need to get to grips with is what is a layperson. So a layperson is a person who is not professionally engaged in delivering of healthcare, and first aid training is the formal learning activity. What we have to do is understand the role between learning first aid and responding and actually helping. And there are statistically significant effects when first aid training is provided with helping response behaviours included in that first aid training. The evidence points that if you just teach people first aid, there is no correlation between first aid training and people helping. So the correlation is between first aid training and helping responses. And people who were, in one particular study, who were given helping behaviours. One study found that 45% of participants trained in first aid and helping behaviours demonstrated 3 times more engagement than those who had just trained in first aid alone. So that's quite a surprising discovery. And I come from Christchurch, the capital of disasters for New Zealand. And certainly post our earthquake season, which we now refer to it as, the number of people that got engaged with first aid delivery and first aid training was significant. But the key there is the link between first aid and helping behaviour, so making that happen. And we've got some apps that will make that happen, okay? So that's what we're going to look at this morning. So we also have to change some of the behaviours. There's a really great series of stories that came out of the last big San Francisco earthquake, lots of fires. and the American behaviour and the litigious, querulent behaviour of the American people in relationship to safety and well-being, the fire chief said, keep the public back. But the realisation was there were not enough firefighters available to do things like run hoses. And they ended up running hoses down the hill into the bay to suck seawater out of the ocean to suppress fires. So without lay people running hoses and joining them up, and it would never have happened. So the understanding is that the lay person actually will contribute greatly to the first response. And non-medical providers, so we've had many decades now of combat, and this is where the military medicine link comes into civilian medicine, many decades of first responders in the battlefield making quite a difference. So there are a couple of key things. Airways, opening of an airway, the control of exsanguination or massive hemorrhage is definitely a first aid skill. In the communities, early defibrillation has been definitely shown to have results, and management of tension pneumothoraces, which is slightly more above the first aid skill, though Radar and Klinger did it on MASH, so it can't be that difficult. And the final point is hypothermia. So hypothermia in trauma is linked to poor survival rate. So just opening an airway and putting a blanket on someone actually will make a big difference before the emergency responders get there. So there's some clear things. In Singapore, for instance, now have a defibrillator on the wall, and beside that they now have a hemorrhage control kit, because those are the two things that will provide the most benefit. So we're going to look at some apps now, because this is the first set of apps is the community responder apps that should be coming up here. And so let's have a look at the first app which I've chosen. So the first app I've chosen, and we'll make the PowerPoint presentation available to you, so you can use this to link to the apps on your PCs and have a look at them. So I think we've got this one first. So this is the New Zealand Red Cross. In fact, it's an international Red Cross app, and what it does is it provides a number of categories. So Zika probably is not high on our priority. Though when I was in East Timor, we had a very encouraging German surgeon who didn't have much to do. So he was a great mathematician and enthusiastic meteorologist. So those two things came hand in hand. And he did a calculation that indicated that to suppress malaria, you would need to drink 42 litres of gin and tonic a day to get the benefit from the quinine. So a useful statistic on holiday, but maybe the Zika information for travellers could be less. So the nice thing about this particular app is probably something that you might scroll through and have a look. And one of the nice things is it gives you some little short, oh, what happened there? That's good. Oh, didn't know that was going to happen. That's impressive.
Help them to sit in a comfortable position.
So this is for asthma.
Reassure them. If the attack becomes severe, call 111.
So little short video snippets which provide some sort of situational positioning, and then of course it goes through, it gives a wee bit of an explanation, and then of course it talks about the asthma treatment. So test your knowledge, it gives you a wee test here at the bottom too. Do them star jumps, yes, call 111, and it's nice that it's been socialised for New Zealand. 911, 111, 999, all the various emergency numbers, 000, they all work. If you ring them in New Zealand, they will link to the Emergency Communications Centre. It's set up to receive all those numbers. So, but 111 is our number, and the police have got, are we taking aspirin, give them sugary foods. Okay, next, what are we, 3? Did we get the right? Oh, coughing, I'm not sure. We'll go back from that. I might embarrass myself and fail. And we won't do the basic life. There's other apps that we'll use for this one, but the bleeding control one is pretty important. That's about the, there we go again.
Yeah, but take this, you take that, and
Put pressure on the wound.
push that down, okay? Do what you don't panic.
Call 111 as soon as possible.
Got a young lad who's cut his arm open.
Keep pressure on the wound until help arrives.
8 parts through.
That's it. So very simple, very straightforward. I like that. Well, Gordon Bennett, you've got a bit of bleeding here, and then we've got the nice New Zealand, tone over the top, which keeps us all happy. So this is quite good. So it's probably something you want to have a wee look at before you need it, but if you need it, it's quite good just to be able to have that prompt. So that's the Red Cross app. Good. Right. Moving right along. So someone's going to keep an eye on the time for me too, because otherwise I'll be either running short or running long. So this is the next app I wanted to explore, so we'll get rid of that one. And this is provided by St John, New Zealand. And this is an AED tutorial, but also an AED and a CPR tutorial. So if we just look at the CPR, adult CPR, the standard danger response send for help ABCD defibrillation comes up. And what we'll do, we don't want to donate, hang on, we'll go back here. Home, and we'll go CPR, adult tutorial, and we'll go CPR, and it provides a nice metronome. Stand alive, ha, 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 ha. Now, the slight problem with this is that it's, this is at 80 beats a minute. So it's okay for community responders, but professional responders, we're up now at 110 beats per minute, so we're doing it a bit quicker. But that's quite good, CPR, and then we're going to do a bit of defibrillation. So if you're not familiar, this is something that you can actually have someone hover and provide.
Sure, the ambulance service has been called.
So step one, next.
Begin by removing all clothing from the... Be sure the ambulance service has been called.
And the app provides the ability to call 111 from the app, so that brings that and makes that available. And then, of course, we've got all that, all the drama. Talks about paediatrics. So this is the use of an adult defibrillator on children. So what we just do is we don't put the pads in the adult position.
When the first pad is in place,
adult positions
look
here.
carefully at the picture of...
And then for children, we just go one front, one back, and that'll zap them through the middle. That seems to be appropriate. Same power. The thing about these new defibrillators, before in the good old days, we put gel on and went clear and had to dial up the energy. And it sent energy from one pad to the other pad, but they're all biphasic now, so they send the energy in both directions, and they attune themselves to the resistance. So this is the technology advancement. So, and stand clear.
No one should touch the patient.
Don't touch them. So
no one should touch the patient.
Needs time to calm down. Needs time to be able to pick up the rhythm, and then it will determine whether the patient needs to be shocked or not. You can tune the voice up. Bam! Okay, good. So, and then of course there's a video from Tony Smith, the face of the nation. Tony has been doing some great work with, he's our medical director, and is he going to come
My name is Dr. Tony Smith.
So,
I'm the medical director for St John.
So Tony went on the recovery flight for the Chinese recovery of the virus people, also one of the first responders down to Whakaari White Island. So St John is very much involved with response in the community. So this is a citizens app. Okay, right, so questions as you go if you like, no worries. Good, right, next one, Smartsin. This is our AED locator. So this is, so there are a number, so you had the Red Cross app provided this facility. This one here is an AED locator, so hopefully it's got us where we are now. And I'm just trying to think of where that must be, so if we have a look here, WF building, which building are we in now? WG. So it's in the atrium, so it tells us where it is. The hours of opening are not open, but it's in the help desk atrium, that's where the defibrillator is located. And I would suggest to you, if your institutions are going off-site, then you shouldn't hire a facility that doesn't have an advisory defibrillator. Why? Why? Because in New Zealand we have to increase the rate. There are over 10,000 advisory defibrillators in the community. Less than 4%, just on 4% of cardiac arrests in the community receive a shock before the ambulance gets there. Okay? So that's why we've got to promote the use of facilities with defibrillators available. That's not so sexy. So we'll go to the sexy one, and that's Smartsin. And now Smartsin, I said earlier that you've got to enable people to respond and to be a responder. So I'm a responder, and in New Zealand we've been very brave. We've elected to not require credentialing of responders. We've said if you want to go on this app and be available to support the community with early CPR and defibrillation, fill your boots. So if we just open this up, at the moment there aren't so many responders around, so red and green people here, but there are lots of defibrillators, okay? Now what I'm going to do, stand by while I simulate an alert. So this goes off your phone. When your phone goes off, it goes off whether you've turned it off, whether you're on night time, whether you're whatever, and this is what happens. Yes. So that your phone does that, then you look at it and you see on your phone that this is where the event is. I'm here, and then I've got to work out whether I can get my pancake and moolie ass to there within a reasonable time, knowing that the ambulance response will be 8 minutes. Now this is all done automatically. When you ring 111 and say I've got a cardiac arrest, when they put the details into the CAD, to the computer system, that alert goes out to the cell phone towers within 300 metres of the event, and people turn up, okay? So I'm going to reject that. Thank God. Another life has not been saved. Okay, the other cool thing about this is, hi, I'm at a cardiac arrest and it's all going down, and the controller, you're talking 111, I see you've got the Smartsin app, turn the video on. So they turn the video on, and the video then links from the app to the control room. So the controller is, tell him to move his hands a bit, tell him to press faster and harder, okay? That sort of thing. And so this is a kind of great technology, very intuitive for people to use, and you know, so it's quite cool that to the extent. So let's just have a little bit more on Smartsin, or Good Sam rather. St John New Zealand is the sponsoring organisation in New Zealand. It costs about, I've just got to find my mouse here, guys, and then we'll be away laughing. Costs about $10,000. I'll add the music. So the problem is it's coming out of here rather than...
The rest of the audio was coming out the main speakers.
Yeah,
this video is coming out projector for some reason.
So just read the words.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, no worries. We had a wee problem yesterday with that. So this is just a cute little video which says this is how it works. 10% every minute. So our aim is defibrillation within 8 minutes. But if you can do a community defibrillation and do good chest compressions, then that's clear that those are the two things that have the most significant impact. And we don't, as I said, in New Zealand, you just have some sort of ID, your driver's license or something like that, and away you go. Because the whole challenge is that in your neighbourhood, the alert will go off, and it could be a neighbour that you're going to be bowling into their house saying, I'm here to do some CPR, stand aside. So, yeah. But a phenomenal global uptake, and you can see how using an app like this supports that responding culture where people wish to partake and be of use. Right, good, where are we? Oop, it went off again. Chariots of fire down the road. And sometimes I don't attend because simply I'm not going to get there, because they encourage you not to drive. This is a not driving app because they want you all hyped up and driving like a maniac. Yeah. Run to the scene. But a chariots of fire, there we go. 28,000 AEDs in Good Sam. And so one of the things is making sure, for instance, that people who have defibrillators actually upload the information so that it's available to these various apps. And then the problem is there are more options for apps, so how do we match? So this is sort of app overindulgence. All right, I think we've had enough of that, good. Right, so you can download that in your own time. Pausing, good, go off that. Right, let's look at some apps now, some different apps. going off that. So that's our, oh, there's also first aid. You can also get first aid for paediatrics out of the Red Cross. The other app I thought would be quite good to download was the one that was about stains, how to clean stains. So if you had a bleeding emergency, you could go straight to the app and say, right, how do I clean that up, you know? So that could be, you know, you're sick in an Uber, bang, how do I do that? So that could be quite useful for emergencies as well. Right, now we've got these ones, and these are more sexy. Sexy apps. Now, this is, as I say, I'm from Christchurch, so I'm quite resilient, but I'm not actually. We had 15,000 aftershocks, and I like to tell the story about Shane Tomlin, may he rest in peace. So Shane became an enduring image of the Christchurch earthquake. Shane, 42, died as a result of the injuries he sustained when he fell through a collapsed floor in a building in Christchurch City Mall. At 10:30 p.m, his mother, Doreen, looked at stuff.co.nz of a video of Shane being taken by a video photographer, Dan Tomlin. There he was, she said. They were carrying him out. He was still alive at that stage, Doreen said. Relief at seeing her son alive, followed by days of anxiety when the family could not locate him. Okay. 4 days later, mother and daughter set off to Christchurch, and as they drove, they received a call to say that Shane had been identified as one of the dead in the morgue. His rescuers had put Shane on the roof, on the top of a police car. On the top of a police car, a nurse sat on the bonnet and held his head, and someone stood at his back and held his feet. Doreen saw that footage of the vehicle as it made its way to the hospital on television news that night, unaware that it was her son that was the patient. Shane died as a result of massive crush injuries and a few minutes after arriving at hospital. Now, it's interesting because the video of Shane being rescued is something I use for teaching paramedicine. It is the quintessential classic tension pneumothorax. His breathing pattern, as an intensive care paramedic, I observe the pattern recognition of his respiratory distress. He's someone that needed a needle stuck in his chest to let the air out. And he succumbed to that injury, even though, because no one had the resources to do that. So he died soon after getting to hospital. He was lost in the, you know, here's the mother thinking, gosh. So the community responds in disasters. And three images, can we pick them? So this is London Bridge. This is the, clearly a bit of a fracture going on here. This is Christchurch evacuation. This is another Christchurch. One person here, this man has got a fractured leg from the earthquake. This is someone holding the boot open. There's another person there, and they're just driving to the hospital, okay? And this was a daily occurrence in relationship to those big events. If you look at the London bombings, over 700 people were injured in those, and 52 were taken to hospital. 67% of patients who arrived in hospitals following the Madrid train bombings arrived in non-ambulance vehicles. Okay, and there is a strong correlation between citizens' response, particularly to terror events. And our own Christchurch terror events of 15 March last year had a very similar response, where members of the community just did what they needed to do. And this is why we need to expel some of the disaster myths. Disaster myths say that citizens will panic in a disaster. Well, they don't panic, but they are fearful. And rightly so. It's a scary thing to be in this sort of thing. Citizens are helpless, and citizens actually will take action, and we've seen that on a number of the presentations. And looting occurs? No, it's compliance occurs. You know, compliance occurs. I was appointed in my capacity as a military officer to the Diarrhoea and Vomiting Committee of the Earthquake Recovery. A committee established to predict that 10,000 people would succumb to diarrhoea and vomiting post the Canterbury earthquakes. Now, the compliance of people to use hand gels, the water boiling order, and the application of 10,000 portable toilets that came in overnight from Holland actually reduced the community occurrence of diarrhoea and vomiting to below what the normal threshold is. Okay, so Christchurch had less than Wellington and Auckland had. So that's compliance, and that's what citizens do, okay? So, and citizen responders are pretty amazing. So the other thing which we used in Christchurch and would have liked to have been used more is, this is a really interesting paper of how they've used the geospatial information from SIM cards to determine the movement of populations. So they used this in Haiti, and they followed the earthquake. Because you've got to remember, Haiti and Christchurch, same earthquake strength, okay? 200,000 people killed, no one killed in that first earthquake that struck Christchurch at the same velocity. The aftershock in February was the one that killed so many more people when the buildings collapsed, having already been damaged. I love this photo of the kid in the water. And so in Christchurch, when we responded, we didn't know where people had gathered, and where they'd gathered was Hagley Park. And if we'd been able to track cell phones, we would have been able to see that's where the people had come together, coagulated. And then we could have sent ambulance resources and military medics to those locations, because that's where everyone carried their injured into open spaces. So Cramner Square, hence, was one of the centres for disaster. Right, so back to the apps. Hello Archie, how you going, darling? You all right? Good boy. So the first one we're going to look at is the Red Cross Hazard app. And this is a cool app because it links to the New Zealand weather forecast. And I'm in the garden doing stuff, and the next minute the app goes off to say storm warning for Christchurch. Oh, better move the outdoor furniture in and things like that. And it's actually very intuitive, and it works really well. So this is a great app. You've got the earthquakes up. You have the volcanoes here, don't you, in Auckland? We just don't allow that sort of thing in Christchurch. Mind you, Banks Peninsula is an earthquake. So storms and floods and all that sort of stuff. But again, it's probably one of those apps that is good for tsunami. So if you're hungry and you're going for tsunami, there we go. So again, this is the sort of behaviours around various disasters. So again, it's about preparing yourself and having that. That's maybe an app you'd like to look at. Get rid of those. There we go. And who doesn't like an earthquake app? This is actually a citizen-generated app, so we overlaid all the geospatial information. So that's the earthquake season in Christchurch. That's for all the aftershocks. One of the best things was you'd get the notification of an earthquake, and we used the GeoNet geoscience app. So where was it? The last earthquake was yesterday, 8 kilometres, Taramanui. There we go. And we'd get the GCS location, and then we'd go and look at whose house the earthquake was under. That was always quite fun. And then we'd have a bet to see who could guess the right Richter scale score for earthquakes. So these are quite active. Volcanoes, we can see Whakaari White Island sitting at 2 at the moment. But also yesterday we had some notifications about some news about Whakaari. It's still sort of, where is it, magna and lava and all sorts of stuff still occurring. So that just, it's a retrospective app, but it's quite nice just to keep yourself informed and what's going on there. And the last sort of response app I wanted to talk to you about is a bit grim, but it's Citizen Aid. And before 15th of March last year, we didn't consider we needed to think of active shooters in our ambulance response. And the St John cleared those 50 patients in 45 minutes. Now, that would not happen anywhere else in the world. And that's based on our lovely naivety. So in America, that place would have been locked down for about 6 hours and no one would have been anywhere allowed to go near it. But we just went in and did what you had to do. So that's part when I say we, St John. I'm a very involved member of St John, so that we, not me personally. But this is, if you're travelling, this is an app you should download and consider, particularly things like active shooters or knife attacks or vehicle attacks. Unattended items and suspicious, prepare and learn is the key. And the simple remedy is switch your phone off. That's the first thing. And then the analogy is run, hide, tell, and it gives instructions on what information you should provide the emergency services. So always, in the event that something happens, run, get the hell out of there, then hide, and then call. So that's their priority there. So those are the 3 apps that I've identified for sort of emergency release. How are we going for time? Okay, right, Chid, better get on with it. So the next round of apps we'll go through pretty quickly. These are the apps that paramedics will use. And we introduced in New Zealand, pretty amazing, the first country in the world to get a universal application of high performance CPR by responders. Okay, so this collaboration, Wellington Free, fire and emergency. And in fact, I think our own video photographer here you did the videoing. Yeah, and this is a world-renowned success story because it just has never happened everywhere. We can get all the responders, particularly the firefighters, in on the act. And we have identified that the priorities here are a rate of 100 to, this is the Resuscitation Academy, the World Global Academy. How can we improve CPR? Switch compressors every 2 minutes, so simple app, turn the phone on, 2-minute timer, in you go, and the next minute another fireman goes in after 2 minutes because it gets a bit tiring. And then hover hands and priorities of compression. So those are all pretty amazing. So this app is the St John Clinical Procedures. So if you're a paramedic and EMT, this app is what you use. So I'm an intensive care paramedic, I'll say the 90 kgs. So this is the app that paramedics use. And if we go to checklists, we'll go to cardiac, and then that's our CPR metronome. This 110 beats per minute with the flashing red light. So that's put down beside the patient, and that's how the compressions are delivered at that rate. So it's a bit faster than what you heard before as far as the first responders. So that's really a key thing. So this app is actually an award-winning app. The group that have put this together have received, and the nice thing is St John, New Zealand is able to refocus this and deliver it to other places who want to use this app and use the procedures. So we'll quickly work through dear John. John's fallen off his bike. He's got a big head injury. So paramedics do 3 things. They assess, they then treat, and then they arrange a disposition. Now this disposition is where the patient ends up. And what we have now is a number of procedures. Say for instance, if you're a schoolboy that is playing rugby in a rugby field in Invercargill and you sustain an isolated spinal injury, then the procedure now is the helicopter will land on the rugby paddock and it will fly you to Christchurch Hospital. You won't go anywhere near Invercargill Hospital, you won't go anywhere near Dunedin Hospital. You'll just go to the right hospital because we know that if we can get care within 4 hours, he's likely to make a recovery. And that didn't used to happen. So this is some really important things for a small country. And the ACC have now admitted the fact that if you can take someone like John to the right hospital, you're probably going to save about $5 million in their rehabilitation. So John has got some classic things happening to him. He's got a funny blood pressure, dropped a bit. He's got a lower oxygen saturation. He's got bilateral periorbital ecchymosis, which is 2 black eyes. Yeah. So he's got all that happening. So what we would do for John is we would go shock trauma and we'd go severe traumatic brain injury. Is the mechanism of the brain injury severe? Yes. Can he obey commands? He can't obey commands actually, so we're going to drop him down and say no. So we need to intubate him and ventilate him and do some neurological assessments and bits like that. So the app is quite good. If we decided to give him some pain relief, he's an adult, we're going to give him some, say, fentanyl, and we're going to do that for moderate pain relief, and we're going to do that IV. We're going to stick it up his nose, but he'd probably better IV. So it's giving us the ratio of the drug, 10 to 50 micrograms. Fentanyl, more information on fentanyl, it's all there, okay? Lovely. So TBI. Another thing we might do is we might use this next app, which is the New South Wales Trauma app. Okay, and we'll just go to my favourites. And we want to do an accurate assessment of John's GCS. So we can say his eye opening to pain, he is inappropriate, he's incomprehensive sounds, and he withdraws from pain, which gives him a GCS of 8. So it's a nice way of really locking down some of those. So our evidence would say paramedics are notoriously bad at estimating GCS. So the use of a tool supports that procedure. While I've got this app open, I'll just be a little bit enthusiastic here. I'm just trying to get out of here. And I will just use the Burns calculator for children because it's quite cute as well. So say we've got a 4-year-old and the weight, what's the weight of a 4-year-old? Who's got a 4-year-old here? How fat are they? Or how heavy are they? 26. Oh, so he's tall, I was going to say. He's very tall. So for a paramedic to treat that child at 4, we'd go 4 plus 4 is 8 times 2, 16 kilograms. That's how we would treat them. And we'd round that to 20 kilograms for drugs. So it's close, it does work. You know? And we'd say that we've given no pre-hospital fluid and it's less than an hour since the time. So done. And that will tell us, that will give us and then we'll just say, where are the burns? We'll say he's burns his arm here and a bit of his chest. And then we better put a bit on his back too because it was hot milk. What's the problem with getting burnt with hot milk as a child? What's the temperature of boiling for milk? It's hotter than water, so it's more thermal there. So there we go. So it gives us an 11% estimation of the body plus how much fluid we should give, 33 millilitres per hour. So we wouldn't do that in a pre-hospital setting. We can't adjust everything down to that size. But that's sort of pretty useful information that we can use in paediatric patients. The other, I'll show you here rather than on the app. I have, these are not apps, these are links. So this link is to the adult formulary. In New Zealand we have 2 formularies, one for adults and one for paediatrics. And so a paramedic, so a good example is John has got the head injury and John is taking, you find out that he's taking citalopram daily. Now citalopram is a cardiovascular suppressant. So he's already suppressed before he has his injury. So a paramedic then has to relate to the fact that what I'm seeing here is the signs and symptoms, which are much worse than they are, because he's actually chemically suppressed prior to his response. So this is where, you know, can a paramedic know every drug that a patient takes? No, and nor should they. They should use an app to be accurate and update that. So they can just type in the drug and be able to identify what the effect of that drug would be. Most of the common drugs, paramedics will have a pretty straightforward response on that. So that's, and then there's, close that one and that one and that one, closing all those, and then you've got the paediatric one as well, which is great because kids' drugs are a bit different. Rightio, so we've got John all sorted out. Now, one of the things about disposition or where you take patients is that it has a direct influence on your triage processes. Now, for big disasters, over-triage is a direct relationship to mortality. Now, triage means what we want is we want those who are the sickest, we want those to be taken to the most appropriate facility first. So you triage those into a disposition, to an evacuation process. Now, so over-triage means that too many people are going to end up at hospitals and you're going to overwhelm the hospital. And in America, they've realised they used to have like a card system that folded in and gave them the triage priority. But then people would self-triage, they'd just change the card. Okay? So dodgy. So it's estimated that over 50% of P1 allocations are over-triage. The Centre for Disease Control states that under-triage is unacceptable and the only acceptable sensitivity for triage is between 95 to 100%, while over-triage is acceptable 50 to 60% of cases, okay? So that's quite an interesting statistic. So how do we get there? So traditional triage models have sort of green, is the patient walking, okay? Yes, they're walking, but actually I'm walking, but I have no idea where I am because I've got a head injury, you know? So I'm walking, but it's not actually telling me the right story. Or I can't walk, so you can't walk. Is he walking? No, so he's breathing. So he's automatically, if you can't walk, I hope you don't go black because that's dead. So if you wake up with one of those, you're allowed to change it, okay? But if you've got an ankle injury, you can't walk, so you're automatically triaged higher. So there's flaws in what we call pragmatic triage sieves, okay? So what we do is we want to look at the physiological characteristics of triage, And if we go back to John, and, oh no, I don't have to go back because I've already got it on the slide, haven't I? Because I'm amazing. There we go. Right, so in my own thoughts, where are we? 2 minutes, right, 2 minutes, and we've got to, so we'll go to this one. So this is, if we use shock index, and we put John's, what's John's heart rate? 130. And next, systolic blood pressure is 110, okay? And that's done. So it gives us a shock index of 1.2. And we know that the normal shock index is 0.5 to 0.7. So we know that using a physiological characteristic is a much more reliable way of determining severity. Now, to do that mechanically on the ground, to take a blood pressure, yes, that's going to be good. But for a paramedic to sit down and do the math, it's not going to happen. We're not that bright. So to have an app where you can just put those two parameters in and do that. There's some lovely apps that have been developed which you can hold the phone at the patient and it will determine their oxygen saturation by the infrared feedback from the skin. So this is some really good stuff that's going to happen. Right, let's not worry about that. So we've covered apps used, so this is nice to finish, on time as well. My God, someone write it down. We've looked at apps for community responders, and I see most of you downloaded those already, congratulations. Apps used in disaster preparation, and again there's a plethora. One of the apps is locating your family. So if the whole family has that app, then you can actually say where you are and link that together. That would be quite useful. And then the other apps which paramedics use in the study there. Got to have a few references, hey, that's what we're about. Okay, good. Thank you. Have we got time for a question?
I think so. Thanks, Brendan.